Good morning. Today we're waking up in the Middle Ages. No alarm clock, no sudden noise, just a quiet beginning. Outside, a rooster clears his throat like a tiny feathered town crier. A dog shifts against the wooden door, brushing against it, letting out a low, sleepy growl. From the far end of the village, the sound of a church bell drifts through the air, low and heavy. It isn't urgent. It simply reminds everyone that the night is over. Morning has arrived. Inside a small timber house, the air is cool and faintly smoky. The fire in the hearth has fallen into a bed of soft gray ash, though a few stubborn embers still glow beneath it. Straw rustles as someone turns in bed. A child sighs softly. The world is waking, slowly and gently. There are no separate bedrooms here, no doors to close. The whole family sleeps in one shared space. Mother, father, children, sometimes a grandmother, and often a cat that claimed the warmest corner during the night. The blankets are rough wool. The mattress is a sack of straw that crunches quietly with every movement. The first person to wake is rarely the strongest or even the hardest worker. It's usually the most responsible, most often the mother. Sometimes she lies still for a moment, listening. Not to music, not to news, to the wind, to the animals, to the small clues that whisper what kind of day lies ahead. Is the wind sharp? Then the fields will be hard underfoot. Is everything quiet? Then the air may be thick with mist. She sits up carefully so she doesn't wake the others too suddenly. Her feet touch the cold earthen floor. That first contact is always a small shock. There are no slippers waiting beside the bed here, just packed dirt, maybe a scattering of dried rushes, and the lingering chill of the night. Across the room, her husband stirs but doesn't rise yet. He knows what comes next. In the Middle Ages, morning begins with fire. She kneels by the hearth and gently brushes the ash aside. If the embers survive the night, she allows herself a quiet smile, a small victory earned before the sun has even cleared the rooftops. A handful of dry straw, a careful breath, a spark that refused to die. And slowly, gently, the fire is born again. A thin ribbon of smoke curls upward. Light flickers against the wooden beams overhead. The house changes instantly. It no longer feels like a shelter against the dark, but a place where the day can begin. Outside, a door opens. Boots step onto frozen ground. A bucket scrapes softly against stone. The village is waking, not in a rush, but in rhythm, guided by the rising sun. And inside this small house, the medieval morning has officially begun. The fire grows slowly, never in a hurry. First, a few thin sticks catch, then thicker pieces of wood laid carefully on top begin to burn. The room fills with a soft orange glow, and the last traces of night retreat into the corners. Smoke rises toward the ceiling, not perfectly obedient but familiar. It smells of wood, of yesterday's cooking, of life. Now the rest of the household begins to wake. The child sits up in one corner of the bed, rubbing his eyes. His hair is flattened to one side. He doesn't ask what time it is. No one asks questions like that here. Morning is measured by light, by sound, by the warmth slowly returning to the room. The father stretches, joints still carrying the ache of yesterday's work. He sits on the edge of the straw mattress, legs hanging down, and exhales quietly through his nose, as if preparing himself for the labor waiting just beyond the door. Here, there is no lingering in bed. Wool tunics are pulled over linen shirts. The fabric is coarse but dependable. Layers matter. Even in spring, the morning air still bites. The mother ties her hair back with a simple strip of cloth. The father reaches for his belt, worn smooth from years of use. Every piece of clothing has a purpose. Nothing exists just for decoration. Warmth, modesty, durability. Even the cat stretches luxuriously as if it owns the house, then hops down and circles the hearth before claiming the warmest patch without hesitation. Breakfast is not a grand affair, it's practical. Yesterday's bread, perhaps slightly hardened overnight, is warmed near the fire. A small pot with water and a handful of oats is placed over the flame. The porridge thickens slowly, filling the room with a plain but comforting smell. If there's leftover stew from the day before, it's reheated. Nothing is wasted here. As the day truly begins, the sounds outside grow steadier. A door creaks open. Hooves shift in straw. Someone coughs. Farther away, a cartwheel rolls over uneven ground, announcing that trade, travel, or work has already begun. Inside the house, movements are efficient and familiar. The father checks the tools leaning against the wall. A wooden-handled hoe, a small knife, maybe a coil of rope. He runs his thumb along the blade's edge, not dramatically, not romantically, just carefully. The day depends on these simple tools. The mother hands her child a small piece of bread. "Eat," she says softly but firmly, not harshly, just enough to make it clear that energy matters. Mornings aren't taken slowly here. The sun sets the pace. Through the small glassless window opening, just a shutter pushed aside, the first true light of day slips into the room. It touches the wooden beams, the clay pots hanging nearby, and the thin ribbon of smoke curling upward. In the Middle Ages, morning doesn't feel like something that has simply begun. It feels like something that has already set itself in motion. Outside, the sky is shifted from pale gray to a washed, gentle gold. It isn't a dazzling light, but a soft, warm glow that quietly reveals the world. Frost clings to the edges of fences. When someone laughs or speaks too quickly, their breath still lingers in the air like a small cloud. The first to step outside is the father. The door opens with a wooden sigh, and the cool, peaceful air of morning flows in, cleaner than the smoky warmth of the house, yet sharper. He pauses just beyond the threshold and studies the yard the way someone might read a written page. Is the ground firm enough for plowing? Did the wind scatter anything during the night? Are the animals restless? Beside the house stands a small enclosure made of thick posts and woven branches. Inside, the cows shift and move about with low sounds. A goat nudges the fence impatiently. Chickens peck and scratch at the frozen earth, as if sheer determination might soften it. The father walks toward them with calm, steady steps. There is no hurry in him, only rhythm and quiet focus. He checks the latch first, always the latch. A broken latch means a lost animal. A lost animal could mean a winter without milk or a field left unplowed. Inside, the mother puts in order whatever can be put in order. Bedding is gently shaken and rolled to one side. The straw is smoothed out by hand, spread evenly again. Soon this same space will become a work area, perhaps for mending clothes, perhaps for preparing vegetables for the meal. Here, rooms don't change, their purpose does. A place where people sleep may later in the day become a place for eating, talking. The child carefully carries a wooden bowl toward the door. It holds milk for the cat. Outside, the village is fully awake now. Smoke rises from several rooftops, thin columns twisting into the cold air. Across the path, a neighbor draws water from the well, muscles tightening slightly with the weight. They exchange a greeting, short, practical, familiar. Market days bring a different kind of energy, but today feels like a field day. Most families will head toward the land they tend, some their own, many belonging to someone else. Tools rest against shoulders. Hands are already thinking ahead to soil, to seed, to fences that need repair. From farther away, the church bell rings again, loud enough for the whole village to hear. Not so loud that it overwhelms the morning, but clear enough to mark the time. A reminder that time here is not divided by minutes, but by prayer, labor, and light. The father steps back inside briefly and finishes his porridge, now cooled. He sits not lazily, but deliberately. Calories matter here. Strength matters. The child watches him closely, learning without being told that this is how mornings are faced, quietly, steadily, without complaint. Soon the door will close behind them, but for a little while longer they remain inside. half the family still in the house, half already belonging to the day ahead. The door closes with a solid wooden thud, and just like that, the house is empty. Everyone has stepped out to join the day's steady rush of work and motion. The hearth fire has burned low, the smoke no longer rising from the chimney. The hours now belong to the land. The path leading from the house to the fields is narrow, worn smooth by years of footsteps. People walk through frost-tipped grass, skirting the edges of small vegetable plots tucked close to each home. Cabbages, onions, perhaps a few hardy herbs, whatever managed to survive the season. Here every plant matters. Every row measures effort in blistered hands and patience. The father walks ahead, his tools resting across his shoulder. The mother follows, carrying a small basket, sometimes for gathering vegetables, sometimes simply because there is always something worth collecting. The child moves between them, placing his feet carefully in the same prints, not out of obedience but because the ground feels firmer there. Other villagers gradually join the quiet procession. No one makes grand speeches. No long plans are drawn out. Just nods and short exchanges. Hard ground. The wind shifted. Looks dry enough. These simple words shape the rhythm of the day. Beyond the houses, the fields open wide. Long strips of earth divided among families. Some carefully tended, others showing their fatigue. The medieval landscape is not wild chaos. It must first be understood, then listened to, then felt. It is managed thoughtfully, season by season. Where knowledge allows, crops are rotated. One field rests while another is sown. Nothing here happens by accident. The father kneels first, pressing his palm against the soil, as if sharing a quiet understanding with it. Medieval farmers do not consult forecasts. They touch the earth, the bark of trees, the air itself. They smell it. They remember how the land behaved last year. The mother moves toward a small patch at the edge of the field, where root vegetables are stored beneath mounds of earth. She adjusts the straw and soil covering them, protecting what remains from rot or frost. These quiet checks often determine whether winter stores will last long enough. The child is not exempt from responsibility. With small hands, he gathers fallen twigs, resets stones shifted by frost, chases chickens that wander too far from the coop. Work here is not punishment, it is preparation. Everyone contributes to it. Farther away, the rhythmic clash of metal carries through the crisp air. The blacksmith has already begun. His forge burns brighter than any hearth at home, and the sharp ring of hammer against iron echoes clearly. Plow blades, nails, hinges. Without them, the village slows, grows quieter. Trade usually comes later in the week, when carts arrive carrying salt or cloth, but today is about maintenance, repair, strengthening what already stands. As the sun climbs higher, the frost loosens its hold, the soil softens slightly. Breath no longer lingers as thickly in the air. Movements grow quicker, more confident. The day has fully claimed its people. Back at the house, a thin ribbon of smoke still rises from the chimney gap. It waits, because when evening comes it will gather them all home again. By the middle of the day, the chill has eased enough for sleeves to be rolled back. The father plants his boots firmly in the soil and begins working the earth with steady, measured strokes. There's nothing wild or careless in his movements. Each one is balanced, deliberate. Farming here isn't about speed or brute strength. It's about endurance. Every motion is repeated dozens, then hundreds of times. After a while, the body finds its own rhythm, and the mind settles into it, adjusting just enough to make the labor bearable. The mother crouches beside a low fence, repairing a weakened section with woven branches. She pulls them tight, tests their tension, adjusts where needed. A broken fence isn't a minor inconvenience. It invites goats to wander and pigs to root where they shouldn't. In this kind of life, small neglects can quickly grow into larger problems. The child wanders a little farther off, gathering smooth stones from the edge of the field and stacking them into uneven towers. It looks like play, and perhaps part of it is. But those same stones will later line a path or strengthen a patch of ground that floods easily. Even play, here, eventually becomes purpose. Across the field, two men quietly debate a boundary line. They aren't angry, but they are firm, stubborn even. Land here isn't measured with rulers. It's measured by memory and agreement. It's always been this way. No, the oak tree used to stand there. Disagreements happen, but they're usually settled before they harden into resentment. Whether they admit it or not, everyone depends on one another, and that dependence carries a certain respect. Farther down the path, a woman walks toward the stream with a basket in hand. It's too cold for proper washing today, but fresh water is always needed. She balances the weight against her hip and moves carefully, knowing that if she spills it, she'll have to make the trip all over again. In the distance, the ring of the blacksmith's hammer still carries through the air, rhythmic, confident. His work feeds everyone else's. A dull plow slows planting. A weak hinge weakens a door. Iron may not grow like wheat, but it sustains the village all the same. In the medieval world, skill and craft mean livelihood, work and bread. Near the church, an older man sits on a low stone wall, shaping a piece of wood with a small knife. He may no longer work the fields, but that doesn't mean he's idle. Handles must be shaped, tools replaced, knowledge passed down. Every so often he calls out to the child, offering advice that sounds gruff but carries quiet care beneath it. The morning has fully opened now. As the sun climbs higher, it draws warmth from the earth. Cloaks are loosened. Faces turn toward the light without even realizing it. There's something deeply satisfying about this hour of the day. Work has begun, and nothing has gone wrong yet. No one here speaks of distant kings or faraway wars. Those belong to another world. This world is measured in straight rows, sturdy fences, and animals fed on time. And for now, everything is unfolding exactly as it should. As the sun climbs higher into the sky, the village settles fully into its rhythm. The early stiffness of the morning has faded. Movements are looser now, more assured. Hands are deep in the soil, sleeves marked with dust and earth, and no one seems the least bothered by it. From the far edge of the field, a cart rolls slowly along the path. Its sound reaches everyone before the cart itself comes into view. Wooden wheels over uneven ground have a voice of their own. Heads turn toward the noise with quiet curiosity. It isn't unusual, but it's always worth noticing. The cart belongs to a man who trades between nearby villages. There's nothing grand about it. A few sacks of coarse salt, bundles of wool thread, some tools for the fields, maybe a small pile of iron nails wrapped in cloth. He stops near the edge of the village green and greets those closest to him first. A brief exchange follows, where he's come from, where he's headed next, what he's brought along this time. In the Middle Ages, trade is rarely loud bargaining in crowded markets. Here it's quieter, familiar faces, easy conversation woven into simple exchanges. Seeing the cart approach, the father wipes his hands on his tunic and walks over. Not because he plans to buy much, coins are scarce in places like this, but because traders carry more than goods. They carry news. News from the next valley. Stories of skirmishes, disputes, distant trouble, rumors of new taxes, a road washed out by last week's rain. Even if you buy nothing, listening costs nothing. The mother joins the small circle a few moments later, a bundle of eggs carefully wrapped in straw in her hands. Eggs are valuable, not just as food, but as a kind of currency. She trades a few for a handful of salt, a fair exchange. Salt preserves meat. Salt stretches winter supplies. It's a small gain, but a meaningful one. The child stands close enough to hear, but far enough not to interrupt. The trader speaks of a bridge that collapsed 2 towns away, of a miller who lost half his grain to the river. These details settle quietly into memory. No one announces their importance, but they will shape future decisions all the same. Trade and conversation end without ceremony. No formal goodbyes. The cart simply moves on, the groan of its wheels slowly fading into the distance. The fields return to their steady rhythm, as if nothing at all has happened. Near the center of the village, thicker smoke rises from one chimney. A woman there is baking flatbread for her large household. The faint scent, slightly smoky, slightly toasted, drifts through the air. Bread is ordinary, daily, but its smell always brings comfort. By the stream, two young girls kneel on flat stones, scrubbing cloth against rough surfaces. They laugh at something one of them says, their voices briefly cutting through the steady hum of work. Laughter isn't rare here. It just doesn't echo loudly or disturb anyone. By now, the sun has settled confidently into the sky. The fragile feeling of early morning is gone. Everything feels steady, balanced, like the beginning of a long, full day. No one checks the hour. They don't need to. They feel the time. By the time morning leans toward early afternoon, the rhythm shifts again. Not slower, just steadier. The first rush of the day has passed. Now the task is to hold on to this pace, to keep the balance. In the fields, the rows of crops begin to stand out clearly. Furrows stretch in long, uneven lines, some straighter, some wandering slightly. Each one speaks less of perfection and more of effort, sweat, and the quiet urgency of survival. The father pauses and straightens his back, pressing a hand against the dull ache creeping from his lower spine upward. He doesn't complain. He feels a flicker of concern, perhaps. In the Middle Ages, there is little room for illness, exhaustion, or weakness. He draws in a deep breath and returns to his work. A few plots away, two women plant bean seeds side by side, their hands moving with practiced ease. They speak softly, not gossiping but observing. One cow gave birth during the night. Another roof needs repairing before the next heavy rain. These conversations are not idle. They are the threads that hold the village together. Problems are shared early, handled together, before they have the chance to grow. Near the trees, a boy a few years older than the others practices swinging a wooden staff. He copies the movements he has seen from older men, a little awkward, a little eager, half playful and half serious. There is no formal training here, but readiness matters. Raids are not everyday events, but they are not unheard of either. Learning balance and grip before you need them is wise. You never know when you might. The stream glints brightly under the sun. A woman fills her clay jug and pauses for a moment, watching the current. Streams carry more than water. They carry signs. Debris drifting down from upstream tells a story. A thin flow this early in the season tells another. Near the houses, an elderly woman sits in her doorway, sunlight warming her knees as she sorts dried herbs into small bundles and ties them neatly with string. Some are for cooking, others for small remedies, a cough, a fever, a restless child. These bundles are kept close for such moments. From the direction of the church, the priest steps into the yard and exchanges a few quiet words with a farmer about an upcoming feast day. Even in a life shaped by soil and seasons, the calendar belongs partly to faith. It isn't loud, but it is steady. Some mornings feel different because of it. There is no tension in the village, no crowd, no rush, no restless noise. The sound here is repetition, the kind that builds security over time. Tools are lifted, set down, lifted again. Buckets are filled, carried, emptied. Doors open and close. Smoke continues to rise from the chimneys. And above it all, the sky stretches wide, clear and indifferent. The day has fully settled now. It is no longer fragile or quiet. It is alive, balanced, deeply ordinary. And in this world, ordinary is everything. As the day moves forward at its unhurried pace, different corners of the village come into clearer view, the tones of the soil, the mountains and hills catching the sunlight, their shapes more defined now under the rising sun. At the edge of the village green, a young apprentice walks quickly, a bundle of kindling tucked beneath his arm. His master, the blacksmith, has little patience for delay. Inside the forge, sparks have already begun leaping upward toward the sky, bright, restless. The iron waits to be shaped before the heat fades. Each strike of the hammer cuts cleanly through the air, confident, steady, deliberate. Not far off, nearby, A woman kneads dough on a wooden board laid across 2 barrels. Her movements are automatic. Fold, press, turn. She pauses briefly to brush flour from her fingers onto her apron. A small child clings to her skirt, half curious, half drowsy, sometimes tugging, sometimes mumbling to himself. Without breaking her rhythm, she shifts her stance slightly and continues. Across the lane, 2 men examine the axle of a cart. One crouches low, turning the wheel slowly, listening for that faint scrape that shouldn't be there. In the Middle Ages, a cart is essential. It carries goods, carries people, carries trade itself. Made of wood, it swells and shrinks with the weather. Joints loosen over time. A broken cart during harvest could undo weeks of labor. Better to fix it now. Near the well, 2 older women speak in low voices. Not gossip exactly, but information wrapped in familiarity. Who is unwell? Which field needs extra hands? Whose daughter may soon be married? These quiet exchanges bind the village together more securely than any fence ever could. The church door creaks open for a moment as a man slips quietly inside. Not for a full service, just a short visit. A brief prayer before returning to work. Faith here is woven into daily life. It is as natural as waking, sleeping, bread, water. It asks for no stage, no performance. The sun warms the packed earth until boots begin to leave softer prints behind. Chickens scatter when someone passes too quickly. A dog ambles along behind its owner, hopeful for a scrap that may or may not fall. There is movement everywhere, but no chaos. Tasks unfold side by side, mending, baking, sharpening, hauling. Each person lifts a small part of the village's weight onto their shoulders and carries it until the day is done. Even those too old for heavy labor still find ways to contribute. An elderly woman sits on a stool by her doorway, patiently spinning wool into thread. The spindle turns slowly, drawing something orderly from loose fibers. As she works, she watches the world around her. Very little escapes her notice. Morning has fully settled into its working rhythm. The softness of dawn has faded, replaced by steady determination. These are the hours when intentions become outcomes, when plans are carried through or quietly reshaped. No one announces progress. It simply happens. A little beyond the fields, a young girl pours the milk gathered at dawn into a large wooden churn. She begins working it with a long wooden staff. The motion can last for hours, steady and repetitive, but in the end, butter will form. Her arms burn, her shoulders grow heavy, yet the result is worth it. Butter isn't only for the table or for cooking. It's a valuable good at market, something that can be traded when needed. Behind the houses, a man has climbed a simple ladder propped against the roof. He adjusts a few bundles of thatch that shifted during the night. A solid roof isn't just protection from rain. It keeps the stored grain, the dried meat, and the everyday tools safe inside. Even a small leak can turn into a serious loss weeks later, and that loss could undo much of the year's effort. In front of another house, 2 children swish a piece of cloth in a bucket of water. It isn't a full washing, just a quick attempt to remove the worst of yesterday's mud from their clothes. The cold water numbs their fingers, but they're used to it. Complaining would only waste time. Just outside the village, the millstones have begun to turn. If the stream is running strong enough, flour will be ground today. The miller's face is always dusted with flour, the fine white powder clinging even to his hair, like a quiet signature of his trade. People bring their sacks in turn and wait patiently. No one has the right to rush ahead. Everyone depends on the same system. Every task matters here. Every person matters. Inside one house, an elderly man opens the lid of a small wooden chest. Inside are a few coins and several important papers. As tax season approaches, these chests are opened more often. Working the land is honest, necessary labor. But in this age, it is never simple. A portion must always be set aside for the nobles who claim rights over it. Even in the late morning, that calculation lingers somewhere in the back of the mind. Toward the village green, a whisper spreads. There will be a market in the nearby town next week. Even this small piece of news shifts people's thinking. Who will go? What will they take? What is worth trading? Daily life here doesn't move with only today in mind. It stretches forward, planning a few days ahead. In front of her doorway, a young woman cards wool, separating the fibers with steady hands. Her eyes drift toward the horizon. Perhaps a relative will arrive from another village. Perhaps news of an engagement is coming soon. Life here carries not only labor, but expectation. As morning leans closer to midday, a thin layer of sweat settles over everyone. Arms grow heavy from work, and hands carry the marks of soil, wood, and water. In the Middle Ages, what we call mourning is really a long preparation. It lays the groundwork for the rest of the day. And that preparation is far more intricate, far more organized than it appears. No one says it out loud, no one repeats it as a rule, but everyone knows exactly what is happening and what comes next. As the day moves forward, the small details within the village become clearer. The first rush of morning has passed, and the work has settled into a more deliberate rhythm. In front of one house, a young man braces a piece of leather against his knee and stitches the sole of his shoe with a thick needle. Leather is expensive. Even when it wears thin or tears, it isn't thrown away. It's repaired. The weakest sections are cut away, the stronger parts reused. A single pair of shoes must last for years. Buying new ones is rarely an option. A little farther along, two women sit at a table separating flax fibers. The fibers were soaked, then dried, and now they're being combed, prepared to be spun into thread. The process demands patience. The strands can't be pulled too tight or left too loose. There has to be balance. In the end, the cloth they produce may become a shirt, or perhaps part of a young woman's dowry chest. Near the barn, another kind of preparation is underway. A young boy divides the morning's milk into small containers. Some is set aside for cheese, some kept for immediate use. Small decisions here carry weight. Milk stored carelessly turns sour, and sour milk means wasted effort. At the edge of the village, a carpenter works a thick log with careful strokes. Its final shape isn't clear yet, but it will likely become a chest lid or a door beam. He must follow the grain of the wood precisely. One careless cut could ruin timber that took weeks to dry. Inside the houses, a different order takes shape. The leftover porridge from breakfast is portioned into small bowls. It can be reheated at midday or eaten between tasks. Staying fed requires planning not only in the fields, but at home. Small children sit at the edge of the table, doing the tasks given to them. One bundles dried herbs, another struggles to tie a small sack. No one tells them they're too young to help or that they should go play instead. In the medieval world, they have their roles too. Even small hands must be useful. In a shaded corner, an elderly woman mends an old shirt. The patch is a different color, but that hardly matters. No one concerns themselves with such things. Durability comes before appearance. Her stitches hold together not only the fabric but the family's modest resources as well. In the distance, a horse neighs. Perhaps a messenger is passing through. Perhaps one of a noble's men is riding out to collect taxes. Such sounds cast a faint shadow over the morning's calm, but they do not stop life. People glance up briefly, then return to their work. In the Middle Ages, morning isn't just the beginning of a day. It is preparation for tomorrow. Repairing, saving, storing, producing, every small movement is a step toward the future. And the day is far from finished. As the day begins to lean toward evening, the edges of morning slowly blur. But in the Middle Ages, morning isn't just a neat slice of a few hours. As long as there is light in the sky, people still move with the feeling that the day has only just begun. Just beyond the village, in a small garden belonging to the monastery, two monks hoe the soil. Their morning is quieter than the villagers. Now and then, one murmurs a soft Latin prayer, then returns to his work. They tend medicinal herbs, sage, fennel, yarrow. These plants are needed in sickness and in childbirth. The early hours are when the herbs are strongest, at their most alive. Along the main road, a woman places dried onions and a few heads of garlic into a small basket. She will have to carry them to a nearby manor. Part of the harvest is given as rent. The one who works the land is rarely its true owner. The weight of that truth mingles with the lightness of the day, but it does not disturb anyone. This is simply how life is ordered. In the village square, a young man removes an old notice from the church door. A new one will take its place. Perhaps the date of a market, perhaps a tax announcement. Few people here can read, but someone will always read the news aloud. Others gather to listen. In the medieval world, information travels more by voice than by ink. Inside one house, a young mother wraps her baby in swaddling cloth. Amid the steady motion of the morning, she allows herself a brief pause. Light slips through the open window space and falls across the baby's face, making the softness of it glow. These moments are short but precious. As the day goes on, work will multiply, attention will scatter. She may not hold the child again for hours. In one corner, two young girls talk about an approaching wedding. Which family will bring what? Which fabric will look best? Who will rise first to dance? Life here is not made of labor alone. It also holds dreams, affection, hope. People think of marriages, of children, perhaps of moving one day to another village. And in the middle of all these small movements, time keeps moving too. The sun begins to sink lower. Shadows stretch and shift. The cool edge of morning has given way to a drier warmth. As the village tilts gently toward the end of the day, no one says, "The day is over," but everyone feels it. Soon there will be a brief pause for the evening meal. After that, the last tasks will be finished, tools gathered, carts set in order. And the day, leaving its quiet imprint behind, will draw to a close. As the day draws to a close, the light over the village begins to fade. The urgency of morning and the intensity of midday are behind them now. Those who have been working in the fields lift their tools onto their shoulders, brushing soil from their hands against their knees. No one says we're done, but their steps change direction. Slowly they all begin to make their way home. Along the path, conversations feel easier. They ask one another how the day went, whether the fence held firm, whether the cow behaved, whether a child did something foolish. These are not grand matters, but life is built from small details like these. Doors open one by one. Inside, the fire lit that morning is stirred back to life. Pots are hung. Water is set to warm. The small tasks gathered throughout the day are finished now. Herbs tied into bundles. Tools leaned back against the wall. Damp cloths hung to dry. Everything returns to its place. In one house, a young man continues carving a small wooden spoon. Evening is good for work that doesn't strain the body, but keeps the mind steady. In another, an elderly woman carefully winds the thread she spun during the day. Production doesn't belong only to the fields, it continues quietly inside the home. When mealtime comes, families gather. The tables are small, the plates simple. But at the end of the day, a warm bowl of soup or a thick slice of bread is enough to soften the fatigue. Hunger sharpens the appetite. Conversations are shorter now, but warmer. The weight of the day has been set down beside the table. Outside, the sky begins to turn purple. The church bell rings, signaling evening prayer. Some step inside to kneel quietly. Others bow their heads at their doorways and murmur a few words. Faith here is not formal or dramatic. It is habit. Children, eyes growing heavy, lean against their mothers. Bodies that ran all day now long for rest. Beds are laid out again, straw shaken into place, blankets shared. The houses may be small, but when warmth is shared, they seem to grow. When darkness fully settles over the village, the sounds fade as well. A distant dog barks. A door closes, the wind brushes lightly against the roof. The movement that filled the morning has given way to stillness. An ordinary day in the Middle Ages begins like this and ends like this. There are no grand heroics, no dramatic events destined for history books. Yet each day, rising again and returning home by evening, is its own quiet victory. The order they build with soil, fire, water, and one another continues for centuries. And the next morning it will all begin again.